What if a supervolcano erupted tomorrow? Imagine waking up to a strange, heavy silence. Birds aren't singing, planes aren't in the sky, and then in the distance, a dark cloud rises higher than any storm you've ever seen. Ash and smoke blot out the sun, turning day into an eerie twilight. Rivers fill with debris, roads crumble, and cities just a few hundred miles away are buried under thick layers of gray dust. You can hear the distant rumble of the eruption, feel the ground shaking beneath you, and smell the sharp tang of sulfur in the air. Millions of people are suddenly trying to survive with limited water, food, and shelter, while communication networks falter. Crops fail, temperatures drop, and panic spreads as chaos grows. Every choice matters. Do you leave your home and risk blocked roads, or stay and risk the deadly ashfall? The effects won't just stop at your city. The entire planet could face a volcanic winter with months of darkness and famine. Watch till the end. The reality of surviving a supervolcano is far more dangerous and complicated than you might think. I'm Harris, and you're watching What If Harris, where we explore human survival in extreme scenarios. Today, we're imagining a supervolcano erupting tomorrow. We'll explore how humans respond in those first critical hours, what strategies could actually help people survive, and what life might look like in the weeks and months after. By the end, you'll understand the true scale of this threat. If a supervolcano erupted tomorrow, the scale of destruction would be almost unimaginable. Unlike a regular volcano, which might affect a single region, a supervolcano can release thousands of cubic kilometers of magma and ash in one catastrophic event. The most famous example is Yellowstone in the United States, which sits atop a massive underground magma chamber. When such a volcano erupts, it doesn't just spew lava locally, it hurls an enormous cloud of ash and gas high into the atmosphere, spreading across continents. That ash can block sunlight for months, causing what scientists call a volcanic winter. Temperatures could drop globally by several degrees, crops would fail, and entire ecosystems would be disrupted. Humans are not built to survive this kind of sudden, extreme environmental change. The first threat is the ash itself. Inhaling it can damage lungs within minutes, and fine ash can collapse roofs, clog engines, and make roads impassable. The eruption would also trigger earthquakes and potentially tsunamis if it affects nearby water bodies. With transportation and communication networks collapsing, getting aid or even coordinating a survival plan becomes nearly impossible. Beyond the immediate chaos, there's the long-term struggle. With sunlight blocked, photosynthesis halts, which means plants die, food chains collapse, and famine becomes a real threat. Water supplies can become contaminated with ash, and even clean sources might be inaccessible because of the widespread destruction. Food storage and reserves would be critical, but most modern cities aren't prepared for months of such disruption. In essence, the scientific reality is that a supervolcano eruption affects the entire planet, not just the area around the crater. It combines fire, ash, and global climate effects into a single, unstoppable chain reaction. Understanding this baseline is crucial because surviving isn't just about escaping lava flows, it's about navigating a radically altered world where every normal resource becomes dangerous or scarce. Humans have survived smaller natural disasters for millennia, but a supervolcano pushes the limits of our resilience in ways that are hard to imagine and even harder to prepare for. The first moments of a supervolcano eruption would be chaotic and overwhelming. Within minutes, the ground would tremble as seismic activity ramps up around the magma chamber. People near the volcano might feel a low, rumbling vibration, like a distant train shaking the earth, followed by sudden, violent tremors. The air would immediately fill with a dense cloud of fine ash, sulfur dioxide, and other toxic gases. Breathing becomes difficult almost instantly. The lungs struggle to filter the tiny particles, causing coughing, irritation, and in extreme cases, suffocation.
Eyes burn, and water vapor from breath condenses in the ash, forming a gritty, choking mist.
Within the first hour, visibility drops dramatically. Sunlight is blocked by the rapidly rising ash cloud, and an eerie, dim twilight envelops everything. Temperatures can initially rise near the eruption due to pyroclastic flows, fast-moving rivers of hot gas and rock. But just a few hours later, temperatures outside the ash cloud begin to drop as sunlight is blocked globally. The human body reacts to the cold stress with shivering, blood vessel constriction, and a rise in heart rate. Energy demands increase, but food and water are already scarce. By the second hour, panic spreads. Roads are jammed or destroyed, vehicles stall in the thick ash, and communication networks fail. People instinctively try to leave, but the weight of falling ash makes travel nearly impossible. Roofs collapse under accumulated ash, and power outages plunge cities into darkness. The brain is under constant stress, adrenaline surges, vision narrows, hearing heightens, every sense becomes hyper-alert to danger. Prolonged exposure to ash and toxic gases can lead to dizziness, confusion, and, if ventilation is poor, loss of consciousness. In the following hours, emergency services are overwhelmed. Hospitals fill with patients suffering from respiratory distress, burns, and injuries from debris. Blood pressure rises from stress, heart rates fluctuate, and many experience hypoxia, low oxygen levels, due to both poor air quality and high stress. Skin irritation and burns from fine volcanic particles worsen discomfort. Mental health begins to strain as isolation, fear, and uncertainty take hold. Within a day, global consequences start to appear. Sunlight is dimmed across continents, dropping temperatures by several degrees in what scientists call a volcanic winter. Atmospheric pressure changes slightly as volcanic gases fill the upper air, altering weather patterns. Crops begin to fail, rivers are contaminated with ash and debris, and clean water becomes increasingly scarce. Cities reliant on electricity and fuel struggle as supply chains collapse. Human survival depends on immediate access to clean water, air filtration, and stored food. Without proper shelter, prolonged exposure to ash can erode lung tissue, irritate skin, and weaken immune responses. Over the next week, the emotional toll intensifies. People experience anxiety, depression, and panic attacks as they adapt to near-constant darkness, ash-filled skies, and freezing temperatures. Social structures fray under scarcity. Trust becomes a valuable, fragile commodity. Survival decisions become life or death. Who gets water, where to shelter, when to move. Science shows that humans can survive in harsh environments, but only if they have preparation and cooperation. Improvising becomes essential, finding clean water beneath ash layers, creating makeshift filtration, rationing food carefully, and avoiding contaminated areas. By the first month, only those who have adapted to these new conditions can endure. The body slows its metabolism in response to cold and stress, conserving energy. Blood circulation prioritizes vital organs, skin is constantly exposed to abrasive ash, and lungs remain vulnerable. Communities that work together, share resources, and innovate survive longer. Isolation and panic, on the other hand, often lead to preventable deaths. Ultimately, humans can survive a supervolcano, but only if they quickly understand the environment, protect their bodies from ash and toxins, and rely on cooperation and resourcefulness. The eruption doesn't just destroy land, it challenges every part of the human body and mind. The air, the light, the temperature, even the rhythm of daily life is altered. Months or years of recovery follow as crops regrow, climates stabilize, and infrastructure is rebuilt. Survival is possible, but it comes at a cost. Patience, resilience, and adaptation are the only ways to endure one of nature's most extreme events.
If a supervolcano erupted tomorrow, surviving wouldn't be impossible, but it would require immediate action, careful planning, and a bit of luck. The first priority is protection from the ash and toxic gases. Standard masks won't be enough. You'd need industrial-grade respirators or multi-layered filtration systems to prevent lung damage. Protective clothing that covers the skin can prevent irritation from ash particles, which are sharp and abrasive.
Staying indoors helps, but only if your shelter is strong enough to withstand collapsing roofs under heavy ash. Underground bunkers or reinforced basements would be ideal, as they provide insulation from falling debris and toxic air. Access to clean water becomes critical within hours. Rivers and lakes could be contaminated with ash and chemicals, so stored water or filtration systems are essential. Boiling or chemical purification can help, but large-scale access is limited. Food is another challenge. Crops will fail under the ash cloud, so non-perishable, high-calorie stores are vital. Communities that can ration and share resources intelligently have a better chance of survival. Technology can increase survival odds, but it has limits. Drones or satellite communication might allow limited contact with distant communities, but most infrastructure would be disrupted. Vehicles may be unusable because ash clogs engines and tires. Solar panels and wind turbines might help generate electricity, but heavy ash can block sunlight and damage equipment. Human adaptation plays a role too. Conserving energy, maintaining body heat, and avoiding exposure to toxic air are as important as any technology. Some survival strategies are simply impossible. Escaping the eruption by car or plane is unlikely. Roads will be buried, and ash clouds can ground aircraft for days or weeks. Expecting immediate government relief is unrealistic, as emergency services would be overwhelmed. The reality is that survival depends on preparation, knowledge, and cooperation rather than heroic last-minute escapes. Over weeks and months, the focus shifts to long-term survival. Growing food indoors or in controlled environments could become necessary. Water collection and filtration remain a priority. Communities may need to migrate carefully to areas with less ash accumulation, colder climates, or access to remaining resources. People who can adapt to prolonged darkness, colder temperatures, and limited resources are the ones who endure. Ultimately, surviving a supervolcano isn't about defying nature, it's about understanding it. By combining protective shelters, reliable filtration, rationing, and human cooperation, survival is theoretically possible, but it comes with limits. You can protect your lungs, your skin, and your food, but you can't control the climate, replace lost sunlight, or prevent global agricultural collapse. The hope lies in preparation, ingenuity, and adaptability. Humans can endure extreme disasters, but a supervolcano reminds us that nature operates on a scale far beyond our everyday experience, and survival is never guaranteed. It is earned, step by step, in the hours, days, and months after the eruption. A supervolcano eruption is the kind of disaster that reminds us just how small and fragile human life can be in the face of nature. The immediate chaos, the ash-filled skies, the cold, the scarcity of food and water, all of it would test the limits of our resilience. Survival is possible, but only for those who are prepared, adaptable, and able to cooperate with others. Most of us would face challenges far beyond anything we normally experience, and even the best-laid plans might only get us partway through. It's a sobering thought, but it also highlights something important. Human ingenuity and cooperation are our greatest survival tools. Technology, shelters, filtration systems, these can help, but mindset, calm reasoning, and collaboration are just as crucial. A supervolcano would reshape life, forcing us to rethink how we live, how we plan for the future, and how we value every day of safety and normalcy. So, next time you look at a calm mountain or hear about natural disasters, think about the scale of the forces around us and the small, critical choices that can make the difference between survival and catastrophe. If this scenario made you think about preparedness or the fragility of life, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you'd do if the unimaginable happened tomorrow.